Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
It could be imagined that if Feng Wu Dao knew of Duan Ling Tian's current thoughts, he would surely swing out his palm and slap Duan Ling Tian flying. However, Feng Tian Wu awakening her interest to Duan Ling Tian was true. Feng Tian Wu was one who was favored by the heavens. As the possessor of a fire spirit body, her natural talent was unquestionable since a young age, and no one amongst her peers could surpass her. This also developed the proudness and aloofness in her heart. However, all this proudness and aloofness completely crumbled after Duan Ling Tian appeared and defeated her. Coupled with the fact that she firmly believed Duan Ling Tian was the man in her destiny, Duan Ling Tian's status in her eyes was greatly diffident. This was also the reason why Duan Ling Tian felt that the current Feng Tian Wu was completely like a different person compared to before. Feng Tian Wu's entire heart was already on him now. If she wasn't affectionate to him, then who would she be affectionate to? The matters of the heart had always been marvelous and difficult to be spoken of clearly. City Governor. Duan Ling Tian looked at Feng Wu Dao and said, "There's one more thing that I think I should tell you, and Tian Wu. I already have 2 fiancés." "What?" Feng Wu Dao's face went grim and said angrily, "Kid, not only do you have a fiancé, but you have 2? Tell me where they are. I'll go deal with them right away. How can the daughter of Feng Wu Dao, share the same husband with other women?" Feng Wu Dao's words caused Duan Ling Tian's face to sink. "City Governor Feng, there's some things that you can't speak carelessly about." "Humph." Feng Wu Dao snorted angrily, and he still wanted to continue, but was interrupted by Feng Tian Wu. "Father, if you still continue being like this, then I won't acknowledge you anymore in the future." Feng Tian Wu panted with rage, and it caused the veil on her face to sway with her breathing. Feng Wu Dao seemed to become dispirited when he heard Feng Tian Wu. "Fine, father won't speak of it." He wasn't afraid of anything, but was most afraid of this precious daughter of his. "Kid, my daughter must be the principal wife when she marries you. As for the other 2 girls by your side, I'll take a step back and allow them to be your concubines." Feng Wu Dao's voice transmission entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears. Duan Ling Tian frowned and replied via voice transmission. "City Governor Feng, I'm sorry. My women aren't differentiated by principal and concubine. Moreover, I never agreed to marry Tian Wu." "Kid, what's bad about my daughter?" Feng Wu Dao's voice transmission contained slight rage mixed within, yet he didn't dare flare up. After all, Feng Tian Wu was beside him. "Tian Wu is very good, but I don't have that type of feeling towards her right now. Besides that, I'll try my best to help her. If I'm really a possessor of the water spirit body or ice spirit body, I can marry Tian Wu and become one with her, and even slowly develop feelings with her." Duan Ling Tian replied via voice transmission. Feng Tian Wu was undoubtedly one of the most outstanding women he'd met in this lifetime. In terms of appearance, she wasn't inferior to Ku Er and Li Fei. "Huh." Duan Ling Tian's voice transmission had only just entered Feng Wu Dao's ears when Feng Wu Dao started laughing, and it caused both Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu to be muddled. After a long time, Feng Wu Dao stopped laughing and looked at Feng Tian Wu. "Wu, father will listen to you and stop forcing him. Children can take care of themselves and have their own fortune. Father won't concern myself with what extent of a relationship you can achieve with him in the future. But father still wants to remind you that sometimes you have to rely on yourself to pursue your own happiness. Once you miss it, you might regret it your whole life." "I know, father." Feng Tian Wu's beautiful face flushed from what Feng Wu Dao said. Duan Ling Tian heaved a sigh of relief. "Looks like what I said moved Feng Wu Dao and made him give up any thoughts of forcing me to marry Tian Wu." Duan Ling Tian. Feng Wu Dao looked at Duan Ling Tian and said indifferently, "Since you're not considered to be Wu's fiancé now, then I naturally can't give you her dowry, the soul transformation fruit. When you really do become my son-in-law, then I'll give the soul transformation fruit to you as Wu's dowry." Duan Ling Tian nodded. Even though the spirit transformation fruit was valuable and its assistance to him was even extremely great, he wouldn't falsely agree to the marriage agreement with Feng Tian Wu just for the sake of the soul transformation fruit. In this way, it would be too unfair to Feng Tian Wu. Looks like I've really changed greatly. I wonder if it's good or bad. Duan Ling Tian sighed to himself. If it was him during his previous life, he would absolutely have no resistance against the beauty of Feng Tian Wu's level. Whereas during this current lifetime, he had an extra sense of responsibility. As far as he was concerned, if he were to blindly agree to a marriage with Feng Tian Wu before he had any feelings for her, then not only would it be unfair to Feng Tian Wu, it would similarly be unfair to Ko-Er and Li Fei. Although I can't give you the soul transformation fruit, I know of a place that ought to be able to assist you in breaking through the shackles of your spiritual force and allow your spiritual force to step into the void prying stage. Feng Wu Dao continued. Duan Ling Tian's face went grim. City Governor, the formidable spiritual force from that day belongs to you. Duan Ling Tian recalled that when he wanted to use his spiritual force to investigate Feng Tian Wu outside the groom search competition's arena that day, there was a formidable spiritual force that suppressed his spiritual force back. Fortunately, that formidable spiritual force bore no ill will and showed mercy. Otherwise, his soul would surely be heavily injured. After all, spiritual force stemmed from the soul. Moreover, an injury of the soul and an injury of the body were two entirely different concepts. The latter's healing could be assisted with ordinary injury healing pills. The formed instead required special injury healing pills that were of grade 3 or above in order to be able to assist with the healing of the soul. Now, when he heard Feng Wu Dao speak of the level of his soul, he'd thought the owner of that formidable spiritual force was Feng Wu Dao at the first possible moment. It wasn't mine. Feng Wu Dao shook his head with a smile. It was Elder Kong. As for the level of your spiritual force, it was Elder Kong who told me. Elder Kong? Duan Ling Tian was stunned. Big brother Duan, it's the Grandpa Kong that I told you about. Grandpa Kong is extremely formidable, Feng Tian Wu said with a light smile. Duan Ling Tian nodded, and he didn't doubt what Feng Tian Wu said. That day, that formidable spiritual force had suppressed his spiritual force to the point it didn't have any strength to resist. Based on Duan Ling Tian's preliminary estimations, the owner of that spiritual force, or in other words Elder Kong, was an existence that had at least stepped into the void initiation stage, or even stronger than that. City Governor, you said earlier that there's a place that can assist my spiritual force to break through the last shackles of my soul and break through to the void prying stage? In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian recovered from his shock and recalled what Feng Wu Dao said earlier, and he had an expression of burning desire. Presently, he was unable to obtain the soul transformation fruit, so he naturally wouldn't miss the opportunity when he heard of another way to allow his spiritual force to break through. Father, are you talking about the soul cleanse pool? Feng Wu Dao hadn't spoken yet when Feng Tian Wu had already asked. Exactly. The day the soul cleanse pool opens is in another 3 months. Feng Wu Dao nodded. Soul cleanse pool. Duan Ling Tian was stunned. I'll let Wu tell you the specifics later. According to Elder Kong, you're an inscription master like him. During the 3 months before the soul cleanse pool opens, go over to Elder Kong's place when you're free and let Elder Kong, who's a great inscription master, guide you in your art of inscriptions. It's sufficient for you to enjoy boundless benefits. After Feng Wu Dao finished speaking in a single breath, he waved his hand. Both of you can leave. Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu left shoulder to shoulder, and on the way, Duan Ling Tian asked curiously, Tian Wu, what's that soul cleanse pool? The soul cleanse pool is a marvelous pool at the southern territory of Darkstone Empire. That place is enveloped by an inscription formation made from the combination of some inscriptions, and it opens every 3 years. Every time it opens, the soul cleanse pool would have accumulated a certain amount of spirit energy. Feng Tian Wu slowly introduced. The spirit energy of the soul cleanse pool is able to improve the comprehension ability of a martial artist to a certain extent. According to what Grandpa Kong said, it's none other than tempering the soul. Tempering the soul? Duan Ling Tian's pupils constricted, and he revealed a surprised expression. Yes, tempering the soul. Feng Tian Wu nodded and continued. However, the improvement of the soul provided by the soul cleanse pool is extremely limited, even to the extent that if someone who has already gone in were to go in again, the effect would reduce progressively to almost not having any effect at all. This is something similar to consuming spirit fruits. The medicinal strength would greatly reduce when consuming the same spirit fruit. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart, then asked at the same time. Tian Wu, once the so-called spirit energy within the soul cleanse pool is absorbed, it required a certain amount of time to accumulate and recover. Yes. Feng Tian Wu nodded. Then, have you gone in before? Duan Ling Tian asked. I entered the soul cleanse pool once 3 years ago. Grandpa Kong said my soul strengthened slightly. Grandpa Kong said that the soul cleanse pool is only able to improve the soul of martial artists below the void prying stage, and martial artists above the void prying stage would only be wasting time by going in. Feng Tian Wu continued. Duan Ling Tian nodded. He possessed a certain level of understanding towards the thing called a soul cleanse pool. According to the memories of Rebirth Martial Emperor, he once encountered a similar place during his second lifetime. But that place wasn't enveloped by a man-made inscription formation and was formed by nature. Later on, he dug all the way to the depths of the pool and actually found a spirit fruit that was able to strengthen the soul. Whereas the spirit energy contained within the water in the pool was actually the energy emitted from the spirit fruit, and it was similar to the wine fragrance of the Monkey King wine. Duan Ling Tian's mood surged. Looks like that soul cleanse pool might have some secrets, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. Perhaps a spirit fruit that can strengthen the soul is also contained in the depth of that soul cleanse pool. Just the spirit energy emitted by it is sufficient to assist others and improve the soul. Then once it's consumed, its medicinal effect would surely be even more shocking. Duan Ling Tian's mood surged. According to the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, the spirit fruit that the Rebirth Martial Emperor obtained during his second lifetime was far more valuable than the soul transformation fruit. If a spirit fruit like that is really concealed within the soul cleanse pool, then I'll make a killing. When he thought up to here, Duan Ling Tian felt a wave of excitement. After Feng Tian Wu finished introducing the soul cleanse pool, her gaze unnoticeably shot at Duan Ling Tian's hand, and her eyes flickered with a complicated sheen. If it was any ordinary person, they might not have noticed her minute movements. However, how strong was Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force, he noticed at the first possible moment. What? You like it? Duan Ling Tian held up the necklace made from rainbow-colored gems and the luminous pearl and passed it over to Feng Tian Wu. For you. Feng Tian Wu's beautiful face flushed red first. Then she seemed to have recalled something and faintly sighed. Big brother Duan, you should keep it to give the two sister-in-laws. Duan Ling Tian was able to feel the sense of loss in Feng Tian Wu's words. He shook his head as he smiled and forcefully pushed the necklace made from rainbow-colored gems into Feng Tian Wu's hand, and when she was touched by him, she shook as if she was touched by lightning. This necklace is for you. I'll keep the luminous pearl for myself. You're not allowed to refuse it. As Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, his tone was filled with dominance. Duan Ling Tian knew clearly in his heart that regardless of if it was the luminous pearls of the necklace made from rainbow-colored gems, the Chang clan and Qian clan's patriarch had only given such apologies to him because they were afraid of enraging Feng Wu Dao. After all, in their eyes, he'd already become the son-in-law of Feng Wu Dao. It could be said that he'd obtained these two things as a benefit from being associated with Feng Wu Dao, and giving it to Feng Tian Wu was logical. Thank you, big brother Duan. Feng Tian Wu lowered her head and was slightly embarrassed. The necklace made from rainbow-colored gems were clenched tightly by her, as if she was extremely afraid she would lose it. In next to no time, Feng Tian Wu brought Duan Ling Tian to a large independent courtyard. Grandpa Kong. Under Feng Tian Wu's lead, Duan Ling Tian went to see the old man with her. The old man wore gray clothes, and he gave others an unfathomable feeling as he stood there. Duan Ling Tian understood that this old man ought to be the great inscription master that Feng Wu Dao spoke of, and is also the owner of the formidable spiritual force from a few days ago. Elder Kong. Duan Ling Tian lightly nodded to the old man. The old man nodded to Duan Ling Tian as well, then looked at Feng Tian Wu with a pair of muddy eyes that emitted a sense of affection. Young miss, why have you come here to my place? Grandpa Kong. Father asked you to properly guide elder brother Duan's skill in inscriptions. I won't disturb the two of you." Feng Tianwu smiled to the old man, then bid her farewells to Duan Ling Tian before turning and leaving. For a time, only Duan Ling Tian and the old man remained. Duan Ling Tian's eyes emitted a trace of gratitude. He was able to discern that Feng Tianwu wanted to help him, but unfortunately, he entirely didn't need anyone to guide him in the art of inscriptions. After all, at the same time that Duan Ling Tian had fused with the lifetime worth of memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, Duan Ling Tian had also mastered everything the Rebirth Martial Emperor had learned in the art of inscriptions during his lifetime. As far as he was concerned, in the entire Cloud Continent, there wasn't a single inscription master that possessed the qualifications to guide him in the art of inscriptions. "Little fellow, the young miss is extremely good to you. You can't let her down. Otherwise, this old man absolutely won't forgive you." The gray-clothed old man's gaze were like torches, and his words contained no lack of warning. Duan Ling Tian only smiled indifferently towards this. Since the eldest young master and young miss have spoken, then this old man will guide you in the art of inscriptions. How much you can learn will depend on your own ability. Let me ask you, how much do you understand about the art of inscriptions? The gray-clothed old man's words contained the style of an erudite person. How much do I understand about the art of inscriptions? Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled, then slowly spoke, one by one speaking of some of the elementary understandings of the art of inscriptions within the Rebirth Martial Emperor's memories. After half an hour, the old man's expression had transformed from the beginning stunned expression to an expression of disbelief, then finally to an expression of astonishment. You. In the end, the old man completely lost his composure and even spoke with a slight lisp. The gaze the old man shot at Duan Ling Tian was completely different now. There wasn't any of the belittling gaze from before, and there was only reverence. Because a great deal of the views Duan Ling Tian spoke of caused him to be suddenly enlightened, and many things that he was perplexed or bewildered about had now been readily solved. How should the materials be arranged for the various level of wind concept in the Windblade inscription? How do I make the Aurora inscription completely obstruct the field of vision of the enemy? How do I inscribe it successfully? How? Gradually, the old man who was supposed to be guiding Duan Ling Tian was now being guided by Duan Ling Tian. The old man knew not of exhaustion as he asked, "All right, Elder Kong, we'll have another exchange when we're free." Duan Ling Tian answered a huge pile of questions for the old man, and he felt a wave of speechlessness. The old man's strength and spiritual force was strong, and this was something that he admitted, but Feng Wu Dao actually called the old man a great inscription master with that level of skill in the art of inscription. It was truly difficult for him to accept this. If even that is a great inscription master, then what was he? An inscription ancestor? When Duan Ling Tian left, the old man still hadn't recovered from his shock and still muttered to himself, occasionally frowning and occasionally easing up, as if he'd suddenly become enlightened towards something. "Oh, big brother Ling Tian, that geezer has finally finished asking?" On the way back, the little gold mouse's voice transmission sounded out by his ear. Early on, when the old man started asking that pile of questions, the little gold mouse had already laid down on Duan Ling Tian's shoulder and fallen asleep. "I don't care if he's finished or not. I didn't come here to be his teacher." Duan Ling Tian rolled his eyes and had an indifferent expression. That city governor Feng said to ask that geezer to guide big brother Ling Tian. But in the end, the old man's own ability is inferior to big brother Ling Tian. The little gold mouse's voice transmission was filled with complacency, as if the one who guided the old man in the art of inscriptions wasn't Duan Ling Tian, but her. Not long after Duan Ling Tian returned, Feng Tian Wu brought along servants that held steaming hot food into the room. "Tian Wu, eat with me." Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian invited Feng Tian Wu to stay and eat with him. The two of them chatted as they ate. "Big brother Duan, were your gains great at Grandpa Kong's place?" Grandpa Kong is an extremely formidable great inscription master, and many people want to ask him to provide them with guidance, but have no chance. Feng Tian Wu said slowly. "Gains." Feng Tianwu's words caused the corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth to twitch. What gains could he possibly have? Tianwu, you should ask Elder Kong about this. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled, then continued to eat and didn't say anything more. Feng Tianwu had a bewildered expression when she heard Duan Ling Tian, as she didn't know what Duan Ling Tian meant by this. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse cried out lightly when she heard the content of Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu's chat, and a smiling expression appeared in her jade green eyes. At the same time that Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu were eating, Feng Wu Dao had arrived before a spacious and independent large courtyard. Elder Kong, eldest young master, please enter. Along with an aged voice sounding out from within the large courtyard, Feng Wu Dao walked in. In next to no time, Feng Wu Dao noticed the old man standing there with a dumbstruck expression while muttering some words, seeming to be recalling something. Elder Kong, I came here this time because I want to ask something of you. During this period of time, if Duan Ling Tian, who defeated Wu on the Groom Search Competitions arena, were to ask you for guidance in the art of inscriptions, I hope you can be generous with your instructions. Feng Wu Dao spoke to the old man with a tone that contained slight respect mixed within. The old man had already been following by his side since he was young, and the relationship between the two was no different than a normal pair of father and son. Eldest young master, don't make fun of this old fellow. The old man returned to his senses, and his aged face was covered in a bitter smile. Feng Wu Dao was stunned, as it was the first time he'd seen the old man reveal such an expression. Elder Kong, why do you say this? The old man sighed deeply. As the saying goes, people of exceptional ability emerge in every generation, and the new replace the old. Today, this old man has completely understood the meaning of these words. Feng Wu Dao had a bewildered expression as he didn't know what the old man was talking about. The young miss brought that little fellow over a short while ago and asked me to guide him in the art of inscriptions. At that time, I asked him to explain his own understanding of the art of inscriptions. As he spoke up to hear, the old man stopped for a moment and his eyes emitted slight astonishment. Who knew that in the end, it became he who was guiding me? I noticed that his understanding of the arts of inscriptions had practically attained the level of perfection. When he spoke up to hear, the old man's voice was slightly trembling. Perfection? Feng Wu Dao was stunned. Elder Kong, you aren't joking, right? Might it be that he was talking at random? Impossible. The old man shook his head and had a serious expression. Eldest young master, I don't dare compare my research in the art of inscriptions with the foreign lands. However, in the entire Darkhan dynasty and even the other few great dynasties, there are really few people that are able to compare with me in the art of inscriptions. Not only did that little fellow speak views and understandings that caused me to be shocked, he even answered my various questions on the art of inscriptions. He didn't even have to think before answering me when I asked him a great deal of questions that have perplexed me for many years. Moreover, his answers were just right and extremely perfect. As he spoke up to hear, the old man's origin energy poured into the spatial ring in his hand. Instantly, light shone in all directions. The dazzling white-colored strong light practically covered the entire heavens and earth. Even Feng Wu Dao couldn't help but narrow his eyes and say in astonishment, what a formidable aurora inscription. Even a 9th-level void initiation stage martial artist would surely be disturbed if caught off guard. Elder Kong, you've succeeded? Feng Wu Dao knew that the old man was researching the aurora inscription for many years. Yes, I've succeeded. The old man nodded, then laughed bitterly. Even I never imagined that the aurora inscription that had perplexed me for many years was easily inscribed under the guidance of that little fellow. Moreover, the effect has exceeded my expectations. Feng Wu Dao was stunned, completely stunned. It was Duan Ling Tian who guided the old man and allowed the old man to be able to inscribe the aurora inscription? He didn't dare believe that all this was true. Elder Kong, he's at most around the age of 22. How could this be possible? Feng Wu Dao was still unable to believe it. If I didn't see it with my own 2 eyes, heard it with my own 2 ears, and tried it with my own 2 hands, I wouldn't believe that all this is true either. As they say, the one that has achieved a higher level is the one in the lead. In the Tao of inscription, I sincerely admire that little fellow. The old man sighed, disregarding everything else but the art of inscription. He is sufficient to be my teacher. Feng Wu Dao was moved once again. Elder Kong actually held Duan Ling Tian in such high esteem. No one was clearer of Elder Kong's ability. Elder Kong's strength might not be considered to be second to none in Darkhan Dynasty, but in terms of the art of inscriptions, if Elder Kong admitted to be number 2 in Darkhan Dynasty, then no one would dare admit to be number 1. Even if it was the few great dynasties that surrounded the Darkhan Dynasty, inscription masters that were able to compare with Elder Kong could be counted on one's fingers. There was practically no inscription master that surpassed Elder Kong in the art of inscriptions. But now, Elder Kong actually said that a young man around the age of 22 was sufficient to be his teacher? Instantly, Feng Wu Dao's chest rose and fell like a bellow, and it was difficult to calm down even after a long time. Earlier on during the groom search competition that day, he was already shocked when Elder Kong said Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force was already at the breakthrough point between the nascent soul stage and void prying stage. Now, when he found out that Duan Ling Tian's attainments in the art of inscriptions, he was shocked to the point he was stunned. Duan Ling Tian. He's worthy of being the destined man that great-grandmother divined for Wu. The son-in-law of I, Feng Wu Dao, is extraordinary, as expected. Ha ha ha. After his shock, Feng Wu Dao was wildly excited in his heart, and a brilliant smile appeared on his face. At this moment, he seemed to have completely forgotten that Duan Ling Tian still hadn't agreed to be his son-in-law. Deep in the night, the sky was as black as pitch. Duan Ling Tian lay on the soft bed and thought of the events that occurred after he arrived at Phoenix Nest City. The talk of Feng Tian Wu's destiny caused him to have a strange feeling in his heart. It was as if after he'd arrived at Phoenix Nest City, he'd ascended the groom search competition's arena for the sake of the soul transformation fruit, and even defeated Feng Tian Wu. All this seemed as if it was pushed forward by a large, shapeless hand, pushing him step by step into the vortex of destiny. This feeling causing him to feel extremely uncomfortable. Destiny? What if *** King Destiny? I, Duan Ling Tian, refuse to believe in this heresy. The destiny of I, Duan Ling Tian, is controlled by me, not by the heavens. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian tossed away this absurd thought, and a strand of cold light flashed within the darkness in his eyes. Unknowingly, he'd thought of Feng Tian Wu, the kind-hearted young woman that was warm like fire. Fire spirit body. I hope I really am able to help her. Otherwise, such an extraordinary young woman like her dying halfway through her life is truly a pity. Duan Ling Tian sighed in his heart. Gradually, Duan Ling Tian fell asleep. His injuries hadn't completely recovered yet, so this sleep went all the way until noon the next day before he woke up. After he awoke, he felt his mind was refreshed. Not long after, just after Duan Ling Tian had worn his clothes, Feng Tian Wu brought some servants along to place the food on the table. Big brother Duan, you're awake. Duan Ling Tian nodded, then sat before the table, intending to eat. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse's speed was the swiftest. She seized 2 pieces of meat slices and started taking big bites, eating with great relish. Big brother Duan, I never imagined that your attainments in the art of inscriptions were so advanced. Even Grandpa Kong was ashamed of his inferiority. To think that father and I even spoke of asking Grandpa Kong to guide you yesterday, yet in the end it became you who was guiding Grandpa Kong. Feng Tian Wu's pair of beautiful eyes stared fixedly at Duan Ling Tian, as if she wanted to know exactly how many secrets were hidden in Duan Ling Tian. Now, she was finally able to understand the meaning of what Duan Ling Tian said yesterday. For a moment, she was filled with adoration towards Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian smiled lightly, but didn't say anything and started to eat by himself. Big brother Duan, why do you have such advanced understanding of the art of inscriptions? Feng Tian Wu blinked her beautiful eyes that were like autumn water. Her voice was gentle and filled with curiosity. Tian Wu, it's your father and Elder Kong that asked you to come ask me, right? Duan Ling Tian glanced deeply at Feng Tian Wu, and she was unable to stand up to it, and nodded with a slightly embarrassed expression. Actually, I'm slightly curious myself as well. If it's inconvenient for Big Brother Duan to speak about, then take it, as I never asked. It isn't inconvenient. Duan Ling Tian shook his head. My art of inscription was taught to me by my master. Big brother Duan's master? Feng Tian Wu exclaimed in a low voice. I never imagined that there's actually such a formidable great inscription master hidden within the territory ruled by the Darkhan dynasty. In the past, I thought that there wouldn't be an inscription master stronger than Grandpa Kong within the Darkhan dynasty and the various empires and imperial kingdoms under its rule. Looks like I was looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. No. Duan Ling Tian shook his head once again. You aren't wrong. If it's only the surroundings of the Darkhan dynasty, then Elder Kong's attainments in the Tao of inscription can indeed be considered as at the top. Feng Tina Wu was slightly puzzled. My master isn't someone from the Darkhan dynasty. I heard him say that he seems to be from the foreign lands. Duan Ling Tian said slowly. Foreign lands. Feng Tian Wu's beautiful face was covered in an expression of disbelief. Big brother Duan, your master is actually a great inscription master from the foreign lands? Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled as he nodded. Yes. No wonder big brother Duan's attainments in the Tao of inscriptions is so advanced. So it turns out that your master is from the mysterious foreign lands. Feng Tian Wu sighed with emotion. Foreign lands, a mere 2 words, yet it was sufficient to strike terror in one's heart and cause deep admiration. Experts were numerous like the clouds in the foreign lands, and erudite people were innumerable. Amongst them included various great inscription masters, high-grade alchemists, and high-grade weapons craftsmen. Big brother Duan, I'll be going first, recover well. Feng Tian Wu bid her farewells to Duan Ling Tian before leaving hastily. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Duan Ling Tian knew clearly in his heart that this girl was surely anxious to return and report to Feng Wu Dao and Elder Kong about the matter regarding his master. City Governor's estate, the independent large courtyard that the city governor resided in. What? The red-clothed middle-aged man and the gray-clothed old man instantly left their seats and stared blankly at the young woman in fiery red clothes before them. Wu, is what you said true? The red-clothed middle-aged man was exactly the Phoenix Nest city's governor, Feng Wu Dao, and he revealed a shocked expression as if his daughter had just spoken of an extraordinary thing. Young miss, he really said that his master is from the foreign lands? The gray-clothed old man was visibly moved as he asked. Father, Grandpa Kong, big brother Duan told me all of this himself. If you don't believe it, then feel free to ask for yourselves. The red-clothed young girl, Feng Tian Wu, said slightly helplessly. No wonder, no wonder. No wonder a little over a 20-year-old young man like him is able to possess such advanced attainments in the Tao of inscriptions. So it turned out that he has a great teacher behind him. The old man came to a sudden understanding, and the bewilderment in his heart was completely solved. Now, I believe even more that he'd the man in Wu's destiny. I, Feng Wu Dao, want this son-in-law for sure. Feng Wu Dao's eyes squinted, and he started laughing. This caused Feng Tian Wu to flush in embarrassment. Father, what nonsense are you talking? What? Wu, could it be that you don't like him? I heard that you personally instructed the kitchen to make good food to send to him for these past 2 days. Feng Wu Dao looked at Feng Tian Wu, and his eyes contained a slightly dubious meaning. Father, Feng Tian Wu lightly stomped her beautiful legs, and she was angry to the point she turned away and walked off without even looking back. For a time, Feng Wu Dao and the old man by his side couldn't refrain from laughing. Soul Cleanse Pool, 3 months from now. Within the spacious room, Duan Ling Tian sat cross-legged on the floor, and he closed his eyes to start cultivating after consuming a nascent nurturing pill. 9 dragons wore sovereign technique, wind WIRM form. Presently, Duan Ling Tian's cultivation had already stepped into the 5th level of the nascent soul stage, and what he had to do now was charge towards a higher level to possess a stronger strength. The 2-year agreement of his with Zither Young Master was in another 9 months. At that time, he would rush back to the 7-star sword sect and battle the Zither Young Master. Zither Young Master, Zishang, was already a martial artist at the 7th level of the nascent soul stage over 1 year ago. As one of the 5 great young masters that were the most outstanding within the younger generation of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, His current cultivation might already have stepped into the 8th level of the nascent soul stage. When the 2-year period was over, the zither young master might have already become a 9th level nascent soul stage martial artist. 9th level nascent soul stage. Duan Ling Tian felt quite a strong pressure. Cultivate madly. For almost 3 months of time, besides cultivating, Duan Ling Tian would occasionally bring along the little gold mouse and leave the city governor's estate with Feng Tian Wu, and they would stroll around all over Phoenix Nest City to relax. Besides that, during this period of time, he was disturbed by Elder Kong on many occasions, and every time Elder Kong looked for him, it would be to ask him questions related to inscriptions. Whereas Duan Ling Tian would answer and explain them one by one to Elder Kong. To him who'd fused with the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, Elder Kong's questions were only basic questions. The admiration Elder Kong felt towards Duan Ling Tian had practically reached the limit. Dawn, Duan Ling Tian awoke from his cultivation, and he shook his head as he sighed. I'm still quite far away. Although his cultivation was close to the 6th level of nascent soul stage, it would at least take another 1 to 2 months for him to break through. Slow, too slow. Duan Ling Tian frowned, and his expression was gloomy. The 2-year agreement between me and Zither Young Master is in another half a year. At that time, with the Zither Young Master's natural talent, his cultivation would at least be at the 9th level of the nascent soul stage. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but be slightly impatient in his heart. After all, the battle between him and Zither Young Master half a year from now was related to his honor as a man, and he had to be cautious. Unless I'm able to break through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage in half a year, otherwise, it will be difficult for me to have a chance at winning. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath and was filled with yearning for the 7th level of the nascent soul stage. Once he broke through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage, then not only would his strength improve greatly, he would also be able to smoothly condense a grade 5 weapon flame at the same time and become a grade 5 weapons craftsman. At that time, he would be able to refine a grade 5 spirit weapon. Although the Zither Young Master, Zishang, similarly possessed a grade 5 spirit weapon, in terms of quality, it would be far inferior to the grade 5 spirit weapon Duan Ling Tian refined himself, coupled with his elementary wind force and quake energy. So long as Zither Young Master hasn't comprehended a force seed, or his comprehension of a force seed doesn't surpass Saber Young Master, then it would be nothing for me to defeat him as long as I break through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage. A bright light shot out from Duan Ling Tian's eyes. But Duan Ling Tian knew clearly that even if he was able to break through to the 6th level of the nascent soul stage within 2 months, it was very unlikely for him to break through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage before the date of the 2-year agreement arrived. After all, the 6th level of the nascent soul stage to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage was a divide that was extremely difficult to leap over. On the back of an enormous flying beast that fly forward swiftly, Feng Wudao looked at Duan Ling Tian with a serious expression as he said, "That soul cleanse pool seemed to have been left behind by a formidable inscription master. That inscription master established a complicated inscription formation that opens every 3 years there, and only during that day are people able to enter and leave from there. So once you enter, you're at most able to stay a day before you have to come out. Otherwise, you might not be able to come out again." Duan Ling Tian nodded. Inscription formation. He's heard Feng Wudao mention this before. Inscription formations weren't unfamiliar to him. After all, he was an existence that had fused with the lifetime worth of memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, and had inherited the Rebirth Martial Emperor's attainments in the Tao of inscriptions. An inscription formation was a formation formed from various different types of inscriptions, and it could only be placed when one's spiritual force had attained the void interpretation stage. Because only a formidable spiritual force was able to control many inscriptions and combine them together to form a boundlessly marvelous formation. The Tao of inscriptions is boundlessly profound. Especially the inscription formation is even more difficult to fathom. This was something that Duan Ling Tian knew deeply. Big brother Duan, if you've entered the soul cleanse pool, then you must do your best to absorb the spirit energy within to temper your soul. Only in this way would you be able to temper your soul to the greatest extent within a day and come out before the inscription formation closes. Feng Tianwu stood at the side and reminded Duan Ling Tian. With Brother Duan's attainments in the Tao of inscription, he might be able to break through the inscription formation on that soul cleanse pool. The gray-clothed old man looked at Duan Ling Tian with a gaze filled with sincere admiration. If he's really able to break through that inscription formation, then it would mean that he would be able to absorb more of the spirit energy within the soul cleanse pool and temper his soul a step further. This is a good thing. Feng Wu Dao's gaze lit up and looked at Duan Ling Tian with slight anticipation. Duan Ling Tian was silent as he never expected that Feng Wu Dao and Elder Kong looked so highly upon him. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian's group were heading towards the Soul Cleanse Pool. The Soul Cleanse Pool opened every 3 years, and many people would enter every time it opened. Because the spirit energy contained within the Soul Cleanse Pool was limited, so that amount of people that entered the Soul Cleanse Pool was always fixed at 30 people. Whereas these 30 spots were all controlled in the hands of the 30 cities in the surroundings of the Soul Cleanse Pool. The Phoenix Nest City possessed a spot. 3 years ago, the Phoenix Nest City's spot belonged to Feng Tianwu, and this time, it belonged to Duan Ling Tian instead. 2 days later, the flying beast beneath Duan Ling Tian's group slowed down its speed. This flying beast was a void-prying stage demon beast, and it broke through the clouds and mist as it plunged down. Duan Ling Tian's gaze never stopped looking forward from the beginning until the end. Along with the demon beast descending, a vast gorge appeared before his eyes. Within the gorge, a ball of thick mist and clouds were condensed together, and they emitted all kinds of mysteriousness that caused it to be difficult for one to see through what exactly was within. When the demon beast descended at the side of the white mist in the gorge, Duan Ling Tian noticed that there were already many people standing outside the white mist. Amongst these people were young men and women, middle-aged men and women, and old men and women. Duan Ling Tian's group had only just descended from the back of the demon beast when an azure-clothed middle-aged man moved over to greet them, and he looked at Feng Wu Dao as he greeted warmly. "City Governor Feng, long time no see." Feng Wu Dao only smiled indifferently. Duan Ling Tian originally thought that the middle-aged man would become furious because of this, but unexpectedly, he seemed to no mind in the slightest and only nodded before bringing along the young man by his side to stand nearby. From the beginning until the end, the young man's gaze never left Feng Tianwu, who wore a veil. Although Feng Tianwu was wearing a veil, her extraordinary and refined disposition was difficult to conceal. No matter where she went, she would be the absolute point of focus. City Governor Feng. In next to no time, many people came, and the people in the lead of each group would warmly greet Feng Wu Dao. Whereas Feng Wu Dao didn't even bother to look these people in the eye. Even then, not one of these people dared get angry from embarrassment. This caused Duan Ling Tian to be unable to help from feeling amazed. Tianwu, these people are all the city governors of the other 29 cities? Duan Ling Tian asked Feng Tianwu via voice transmission. Yes. Feng Tianwu replied via voice transmission. Big brother Duan, you're surprised of their attitude when facing my father, right? Feng Tianwu continued saying via voice transmission when she saw Duan Ling Tian nod. They only found out that the Phoenix Nest City had changed city governors 3 years ago when my father brought me here. Then, they more or less looked down on my father and even wanted to deprive the Phoenix Nest City of its slot. After speaking up to here, Feng Tianwu stopped for a moment before continuing. Later on, my father only slightly revealed his imposing manner, and it made those city governors submit completely and didn't dare look down on my father again. Duan Ling Tian was able to notice that when Feng Tianwu mentioned this matter, her beautiful face was slightly red as she was obviously slightly happy. Duan Ling Tian's pupils constricted. After all, with his current spiritual force, he was more or less already able to sense the aura of a void initiation stage martial artist. All those people who'd taken the initiative to greet Feng Wu Dao earlier were practically all existences at the void initiation stage, and a few amongst them had even more extraordinary strength. But even then, Feng Wu Dao didn't even bother to look them in the eye, yet they were still polite before Feng Wu Dao. Duan Ling Tian knew clearly in his heart that this was the reverence towards the strong. I wonder when I'll be able to possess a strength like City Governor Feng and possess a deterrent force like him. Duan Ling Tian sighed to himself. Haha, City Governor Feng, we haven't seen each other for 3 years, yet your demeanor remains the same as before. Suddenly, a sonorous voice entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears. Subsequently, he saw a blue-clothed middle-aged man descend from the back of an enormous flying beast, and behind the middle-aged man, a young man around the age of 26 or 27 followed. The young man's appearance was cold, yet when his gaze descended onto Feng Tianwu, it instead emitted traces of burning desire. Looks like even if Tianwu wears a veil, she's still extremely well received. Duan Ling Tian said to himself. Think about it. Although Feng Tianwu wore a veil when outside, her disposition was natural and was sufficient to attract many lascivious men. Coupled with the existence of an expert like Feng Wu Dao behind Feng Tianwu. In this way, there were surely a great number of people that wanted to bow beneath her skirt. The blue-clothed middle-aged man didn't mind when Feng Wu Dao only glanced indifferently at him, and his gaze descended onto Duan Ling Tian as he asked, City Governor Feng, I heard you obtained a son-in-law 3 months ago. Could it be this person? What? City Governor Zhong, you have some advice for me? Feng Wu Dao asked indifferently. I don't dare give you advice. I'm just surprised at the age of City Governor's son-in-law. It's truly difficult to imagine that there's still such a young genius that's able to defeat your daughter, Miss Tianwu. As he finished speaking, the blue-clothed middle-aged man's gaze spun around Duan Ling Tian before descending onto Feng Tianwu. Tianwu, when I found out that City Governor Feng held a groom search competition for you, I wished for nothing more than to grow a pair of wings and fly to Phoenix Nest City. But unfortunately, I still couldn't make it in time. However, I never imagined that someone actually defeated you and beat me to the punch. The young man behind the blue-clothed middle-aged man moved his gaze from Feng Tianwu to Duan Ling Tian, and there was no lack of intention to provoke within it. Duan Ling Tian had a carefree expression and remained unmoved. However, Duan Ling Tian didn't feel the young man's current actions were worthy of notice, but it didn't mean that Feng Tianwu didn't as well. Before outsiders, Feng Tianwu wasn't so gentle like she ordinarily was when she was before Duan Ling Tian. She looked to the young man and said coldly and indifferently, You can call my full name, Feng Tianwu. Tianwu isn't something you can speak of. Besides that, not to mention you don't satisfy the requirements for my groom search competition that day. Even if you did, do you honestly think you can defeat me? Feng Tianwu's sudden outburst caused Duan Ling Tian to be stunned. How similar was the scene before him and the scene when he met Feng Tianwu for the first time that day. Feng Tianwu at that time spoke with a tone filled with aggression and even directly attacked him. Later on, after he defeated Feng Tianwu, only then did her attitude towards him change. Especially after Feng Tianwu firmly believed that he was the man in her destiny. The young man was angered to the point his face flushed red when he heard Feng Tianwu, yet he was afraid of Feng Wu Dao and didn't dare say anything. This scene caused Duan Ling Tian to be unable to refrain from laughing silently. But his laughter entered into the eyes of the young man, and for a time, he seemed to have become the venting point for the young man's rage. Kid, what are you laughing at? The young man looked at Duan Ling Tian and spoke in a low voice. What has what I'm laughing at got to do with you? Duan Ling Tian glanced indifferently at the young man. The young man was stirred by what Feng Tianwu said earlier, yet was unable to speak a word after a long time. Now he'd instead showed off his strength before Duan Ling Tian. Did he really think that Duan Ling Tian was a soft persimmon? Kid, since you defeated the city governor's daughter, I presume your strength is extremely formidable. Then I'll challenge you to a battle. Do you dare? The young man roared, and the origin energy on his body raged and surged. Above him, 800 lifelike ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form. Duan Ling Tian frowned, and his face sank slightly. This person still wanted to fight him? If you want to fight Big Brother Duan, then first pass through me. In the next moment, Duan Ling Tian heard a tender shout and a wave of fragrant wind assault his nose. Then a figure that was like flames descended before him, protecting him behind herself. It was precisely Feng Tianwu. Squeak, squeak. Meanwhile, the little gold mouse that lay asleep on Duan Ling Tian's shoulder was woken up by the racket, and she rubbed her eyes like a human before looking at the scene before her. Then a strand of cold light flashed within her jade green eyes. Big brother Duan, do you want me to kill him? The little gold mouse's voice transmission entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears, and it was filled with ruthlessness. Duan Ling Tian was stunned. This little fellow just woke up and is already so ruthless. There's no need. I can deal with it. Duan Ling Tian replied via voice transmission. Don't be rude. The blue-clothed middle-aged man that stood beside the young man, the person that was called City Governor Zhong by Feng Wu Dao, frowned as he shouted in a low voice. But the young man didn't pay any attention to him, and instead looked at Duan Ling Tian as he ridiculed. Kid, if you have the balls, then don't hide behind a woman. In my opinion, you surely used despicable and shameless methods to defeat Tian Wu. City Governor Feng, I'm sorry. My son. City Governor Zhong looked at Feng Wu Dao and had an apologetic expression. There's no harm done. Feng Wu Dao waved his hand and said indifferently, let the juniors solve their own problems. If one wants to become a great person, then one can't avoid experiencing some suffering on the path of growth. City Governor Zhong was stunned, and a bad premonition arose within his heart. He looked at his son, wanting to stop him. But unfortunately, he was still too late. The conflict had already arisen, and it was difficult to retrieve spilt water. Tian Wu. Duan Ling Tian stopped Feng Tian Wu, who wanted to come forward on his behalf, and lightly smiled. Let me handle these small matters. It's only a clown. You don't have to get angry because of him. Feng Tian Wu lightly nodded, and when she looked back at Duan Ling Tian, she smiled like a flower. Big brother Duan, then I'll watch you teach this clown a proper lesson. All right. Duan Ling Tian nodded. As for the young man, the son of City Governor Zhong Bai, his face had gone gloomy since long ago. Clown? This little kid that was slightly over 20 called him a clown? City Governor Zhong had just spoke when it abruptly stopped. He was able to discern that his son was truly angry, and with his understanding of his son, then once his son set his mind on something, it would be impossible to change. Although he was able to use his strong martial strength to stop the following scene from occurring, when he recalled what Feng Wu Dao said earlier, he dispelled any thoughts of making a move. Meanwhile, everyone within the gorge had surrounded them. It's City Governor Zhong's son, Zhong Bai? Supposedly, Zhong Bai's cultivation has already broken through to the 6th level of the nascent soul stage. That young man came together with City Governor Feng. I seem to have not seen him in the past. You don't know? 3 months ago, this young man defeated Miss Tian Wu during the groom search competition City Governor Feng held for Miss Tian Wu, and became the son-in-law of City Governor Feng. I had this son-in-law of City Governor Feng is only a 5th-level nascent soul stage martial artist. It can't be, right? According to my knowledge, Miss Tian Wu seems to be a martial artist at the 6th level of the nascent soul stage that had comprehended a fire force seed. Moreover, she even possesses a grade 5 spirit weapon. How could she possibly lose at the hands of a 5th-level nascent soul stage martial artist? Allegedly, this young man used elementary wind force to defeat Miss Tian Wu. Elementary wind force? What a joke. That's genuine force that only a martial artist at the void-prying stage or above is able to comprehend. How could a 5th-level nascent soul stage martial artist like him comprehend it? The surrounding crowd quickly became bustling with excitement, and the rumors relating to Duan Ling Tian started spreading out. But no one believed the rumor that Duan Ling Tian had comprehended elementary wind force. After all, only martial artists at the void-prying stage and above are able to comprehend genuine force, and this was an iron law in Cloud Continent. They'd never heard of anyone being able to break this iron law. People which possessed similar thoughts naturally included Zhong Bai. Kid, let me properly experience your elementary wind force. Zhong Bai ridiculed, and a spirit sword appeared with a raise of his hand. Then origin energy coiled and raged as it suffused the space around the spirit sword. Whoosh! In an instant, Another 300 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared beside the existing 800 ancient mammoth silhouettes above Zhongbai. Based on the strength of amplification, the spirit sword in Zhongbai's hand was obviously a grade 6 spirit sword. The Darkstone Empire is worthy of being an existence that transcended the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. This son of a city governor from a mere remote city is actually able to casually take out a grade 6 spirit sword. Truly shocking. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. After all, even if it was in a sect like the 7-star sword sect, grade 6 spirit swords were only controlled in the hands of the higher-ups. Besides him, practically no one amongst the younger generation disciples of the 7-star sword sect possessed a grade 6 spirit sword. Of course, Duan Ling Tian knew clearly in his heart that this wasn't sufficient to show that the 7-star sword sect was inferior to a mere city governor's estate in a remote city of the Darkstone Empire, and it was instead because the level of weapons refinement in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom was inferior to the Darkstone Empire. The level of weapons refinement was decided by the amount of high-grade weapons craftsmen. The amount of high-grade weapons craftsmen in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom was surely inferior to the Darkstone Empire. The word empire had already firmly surpassed the word imperial kingdom. The strength of 1,100 ancient mammoths. The corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth curled into a smile of disdain and indifference, as Zhongbei posed no threat to him in the slightest. Humph. Perhaps he discerned the disdain on the corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth. Zhongbai's face sank and grunted coldly before flashing out. Swoosh. Zhongbei moved out to attack, seeming to transform into a gust of wind, and everywhere he passed, dust and dirt flew in the air as he swept towards Duan Ling Tian. Kid, let me properly experience the genuine wind force you've comprehended. At the same time, a voice that was filled with mocking and ridicule sounded out. As you wish. Duan Ling Tian replied in an uninterested manner, and the origin energy beneath his legs rages as wind force emerged. Instantly, 900 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared in the sky above Duan Ling Tian. Whereas Duan Ling Tian seemed to have transformed into a gale as well, moving aside a step earlier before Zhongbei reached him, avoiding the grade 6 spirit sword that was powered by Zhongbai's strength of 1,100 ancient mammoths. Zhongbai's grade 6 spirit sword speed was swift because of the amplification of the sword itself, but it didn't mean that his own speed was swift. His own speed was only powered by the strength of 800 ancient mammoths. He couldn't catch up to Duan Ling Tian's speed no matter how hard he tried. So long as Duan Ling Tian didn't give him an opportunity to get close, it would be difficult for him to catch up to Duan Ling Tian. Wind force. It's really elementary wind force. The surrounding crowd had no lack of people with sharp eyesight, and they saw through the aura of wind force that was suffused within the origin energy on Duan Ling Tian's legs with a glance. That was genuine force, wind force, elementary wind force. It was comparably to the strength of 200 ancient mammoths. The expressions of most people changed to an expression of shock. This son-in-law of city governor Feng has actually broken the iron law of Cloud Continent since ancient times. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Duan Ling Tian was like a ghost as he ceaselessly flashed around Zhongbei, constantly keeping a length of distance from Zhongbei, and causing the grade 6 spirit sword in Zhongbai's hand to be unable to touch him. At this moment, Zhongbei was incomparably aggrieved. The grade 6 spirit sword in his hand possessed a strong strength and swift speed, yet the speed under his feet was far inferior to Duan Ling Tian. Currently, it was as if Duan Ling Tian was playing tricks on him. Let me see how you dodge this. Suddenly, Zhongbei, who was angry out of embarrassment, shouted out explosively. He'd accurately grasped the trajectory of Duan Ling Tian's movements, and the grade 6 spirit sword in his hand shook as it flew out from his hand, flying directly towards Duan Ling Tian. Swish! The grade 6 spirit sword seemed to have transformed into a sharp arrow that tightly locked itself onto Duan Ling Tian and gave rise to a wave of ear-piercing howls in the wind as it moved. This sword strike was powered by the strength of 1,100 ancient mammoths, and its speed was swift to the extent it far surpassed Duan Ling Tian's speed. Quite intelligent in a small way. Duan Ling Tian stopped moving when facing this sword strike as he knew that continuing to dodge had no meaning now. With his current speed, it would be inferior to Zhong Bai's sword even if he utilized quake energy at the limit. After Duan Ling Tian stopped, a dark violet flexible sword appeared out of thin air in his hand. Suddenly Duan Ling Tian attacked. Sword drawing arts. His sword swung out like a bolt of lightning, especially since that besides the raging origin energy within it, there was swift and fierce elementary wind force mixed within. Swoosh. In the sky, 1,200 ancient mammoth silhouettes dashed out with an imposing manner that shot into the sky like a rainbow. Swoosh. The sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand was like a shadow that easily stopped the sword that Zhong Bai sent out. Clang. With a single sword strike, he'd smashed Zhong Bai's grade 6 spirit sword flying in an extremely efficient manner. Whirlwind. Duan Ling Tian seized this opportunity to transform into a gale once again and charged straight towards Zhong Bai, whose face went pale. Show mercy. The face of Zhong Bai's father went pale, yet he didn't dare move to assist Zhong Bai, because he'd noticed that Feng Wu Dao had already locked onto him and caused him to not dare make any rash movements. Wham! The violet myrtle flexible sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand flashed out, and when it arrived close to Zhong Bai, it suddenly twisted to slap out with the blade of the sword. Slap! The blade of the sword smashed onto Zhong Bai's body, slapping Zhong Bai flying to fiercely collide on the precipice at the side of the gorge, and for a time, shattered bits of rocks flew about and dust suffused the air. Whereas Zhong Bai brushed on the wall as he fiercely descended onto the ground, then repeatedly spat out a few mouthfuls of blood with an extremely ghastly pale expression. When he looked at Duan Ling Tian once again, his gaze was filled with terror. Duan Ling Tian put away his sword, then glanced indifferently at Zhong Bai before returning to Feng Tianwu's side. No one noticed that at this moment, Feng Tianwu's beautiful face beneath the veil had flushed rosy, as if she was even happier than if it was she herself who'd taught Zhong Bai his lesson. Congratulations, City Governor Feng, for obtaining such a superb son-in-law. Congratulations, City Governor Feng. City Governor Feng has such great fortune to actually obtain such a son-in-law. Presently, the people from the other 28 cities were practically all gathered here, and the 28 city governors had all congratulated Feng Wu Dao, whereas Feng Wu Dao revealed a rare smile. Thank you, little brother, for showing mercy. After City Governor Zhong gave Zhong Bai a medicinal pill, he looked at Duan Ling Tian with an expression of gratitude. He knew clearly in his heart that even if Duan Ling Tian really killed his son earlier, he wouldn't dare take revenge and could only endure it. Feng Wu Dao was too strong. Even if he and the other 28 city governors were to join forces, they might not be able to be a match for Feng Wu Dao. Duan Ling Tian nodded lightly. There's still another half an hour before the Soul Cleanse pool opens. It was unknown who said this. The gazes of most of the people within the gorge descended onto the ball of cloud and mist within the gorge. The cloud and wind were converged together and revealed a mysterious and unfathomable aura. The Soul Cleanse pool is inside. Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force extended out and sensed the numerous energies of inscriptions contained within the clouds and mist in the first possible moment. 9 inscriptions. Duan Ling Tian was slightly surprised. Relying on his acute spiritual force, he was able to notice that there was actually an inscription formation within the clouds and mist before him, and it was an incomparably profound formation formed by a total of 9 inscriptions that complemented each other. The defensive strength of this inscription formation is sufficient to withstand the attack of a martial artist below the void transformation stage. 9 inscriptions join together to form a cycle that's able to absorb the energy of heaven and earth. So long as it wasn't destroyed by an expert at the void transformation stage in one go, then regardless of how great an extent of harm it receives, it would be able to automatically repair itself in a short amount of time. According to the memories of Rebirth Martial Emperor, Duan Ling Tian was able to perceive that the inscription master that left this inscription formation behind was extremely outstanding, combining 9 inscriptions to form a formidable inscription formation. This inscription master's spiritual forces level was at least at the void transformation stage or above. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. Big brother Duan, have you noticed anything? Feng Tianwu, who'd always had her eye on Duan Ling Tian, noticed the changes in Duan Ling Tian's expression, and she asked via voice transmission. Duan Ling Tian lightly nodded and told her of what he'd noticed. An inscription master whose spiritual force had attained the void transformation stage? Then wouldn't the person who left this inscription formation be a void transformation stage expert? Feng Tianwu's beautiful face beneath the veil had a slightly shocked expression. The probability is over 90%. Duan Ling Tian replied via voice transmission. After all, not everyone was like him and could possess a spiritual force that exceeded his cultivation by a great deal. The reason his spiritual force was strong was because his soul was from Earth in his previous life. Then it even collided with the formidable soul of the Rebirth Martial Emperor himself, and an unusual change had occurred in his soul because of this. An ordinary inscription master possessed a spiritual force that was equal to cultivation. Of course, there were also some comparatively outstanding inscription masters that possessed a spiritual force that was a level of 2 above their cultivation. But their spiritual force wouldn't be so exaggerated like Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu stood together as they looked at each other and sent voice transmissions back and forth. This scene seemed to be peaceful, but when it entered the eyes of an observant person, it completely became something else. Miss Tianwu and this little brother are truly a perfect match, a pair made in heaven. A city governor couldn't refrain from sighing. Duan Ling Tian was stunned. As for Feng Tianwu, the beautiful face beneath her veil flushed completely red. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian was able to sense numerous gazes of jealousy and envy flashing over from all over to descend onto him. He paid no attention to this and never even thought of providing an explanation. Although there was nothing between him and Feng Tianwu, if he were to explain at this moment, then even if the others believe him, it would cause Feng Wu Dao and Feng Tianwu to lose face. Feng Tianwu was a friend to him, and Feng Wu Dao was the father of Feng Tianfu, so he was a senior to him. He naturally wouldn't cause Feng Tianwu and Feng Wu Dao to be in a difficult position. If Wu is really able to get together with him, then it's Wu's fortune as well. Feng Wu Dao looked at Duan Ling Tian with an extremely complicated gaze. Now, the more he understood Duan Ling Tian, the more he wanted Duan Ling Tian to become his son-in-law. Half an hour quickly passed by. The soul cleanse pool is about to open. It was unknown who cried out. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian saw that the ball of cloud and mist in the gorge split open from the center, as if it was chopped open by an enormous axe. The cloud and mist split apart. What appeared before them was dusky-colored clouds and mist, and the scene within couldn't be seen clearly. But Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force instead had easily entered into it and touched the soul cleanse pool, and as he felt the so-called spirit energy suffused within the soul cleanse pool, his spiritual force felt a wave of comfort. Even though the inscription formation that enveloped the soul cleanse pool was opened, not a single person entered. The gazes of the 29 city governors had all descended onto Feng Wu Dao. Go in. Only when Feng Wu Dao looked at Duan Ling Tian did he come back to his senses, so it turned out that the governors of the various cities were waiting for him to enter. Of course, he knew clearly in his heart that the reason he enjoyed such treatment was because of Feng Wu Dao. Otherwise, the various city governors wouldn't even look at it straight in the eye. Duan Ling Tian nodded, then looked at the little gold mouse on his shoulder. Little Gold, go to Tianwu first. I'll be back very soon. Squeak, squeak. Although she was slightly unwilling, the little gold mouse still obediently jumped onto Tianwu's hand. Don't worry, big brother Duan. I'll take good care of Little Gold. Tianwu looked at Duan Ling Tian as she assured him. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled as she nodded. Then his body flashed out, transforming into a gust of wind that was the first to pass through the split open inscription formation and enter within. After passing through the dusky mist, Duan Ling Tian felt the scene before his eyes suddenly brighten up. A spacious lake entered his eyes, and there seemed to be strands of a green glow leaping about on the surface of the lake. Soul cleanse pool, Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. When he noticed the wave of movement coming from behind him, Duan Ling Tian knew that the other 29 young geniuses from the various cities were about to enter, and he didn't hesitate to fly out and leap into the soul cleanse pool with a plop, then dove under. Right at this moment, Duan Tian was able to notice that his spiritual force that hadn't had any movement for a long time had suddenly started to become slightly restless. Looks like the spirit energy within this soul cleanse pool is indeed likely to assist my spiritual force to break through. Duan Tian was slightly excited in his heart. Once his spiritual force broke through, the scope of inscriptions that he could inscribe would become even stronger, and he would be able to easily inscribe some high-grade inscriptions that he was unable to inscribe in the past. When he thought of the scene of him utilizing an inscription and causing a void-prying stage martial artist to turn into ash, Duan Tian was slightly excited in his heart. I actually don't have to intentionally absorb the spirit energy of this soul cleanse pool. It completely fuses into my soul on its own and strengthens my spiritual force. In next to no time, Duan Tian had noticed this, and this caused him to be inexplicably pleasantly surprised. Since it's like this, then I'll properly find out what exactly this soul cleanse pool is. Duan Tian's gaze abruptly lit up as he continued to dove downwards into the soul cleanse pool. He'd never forgotten his original intentions all along. According to the past experience of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, there was surely a secret to why the soul cleanse pool would give birth to the spirit energy. Now, Duan Tian intended to find this secret. After all, the Rebirth Martial Emperor had encountered an existence similar to the soul cleanse pool once, and in the end, at the depths of that pool, the Rebirth Martial Emperor had found a spirit fruit with effects that far surpassed a soul transformation fruit. That spirit fruit also allowed the level of the Rebirth Martial Emperor's soul to surpass his cultivation by an entire 3 levels in one go. Although it wasn't as abnormal as Duan Tian's soul currently, it was still considered to be shocking. With Duan Tian's current strength, holding his breath and diving was of no difficulty to him. After a short moment, he'd smoothly dived into the depths of the soul cleanse pool. Right at this moment, a wave of sounds of things dropping into water sounded out in the soul cleanse pool. It was the other young geniuses from the other 29 cities that had all dived into the soul cleanse pool. Most of these young geniuses stayed at the spot they entered as they enjoyed the tempering and baptism of the soul. There were also a small portion of them that curiously dove deeper and started sizing up the surroundings. But what entered their eyes was a boundless expanse, causing them to return after diving in for a short amount of time. The unknown was the most terrifying. They weren't sure what was within the depths of the soul cleanse pool, so they didn't dare take the risk. They were different than Duan Tian, after all. Fortunately, I can utilize my spiritual force. Otherwise, I'd be entirely unable to find the way within this soul cleanse pool. Duan Tian, who'd continuously dove downwards, couldn't help but muse to himself. His spiritual force constantly maintained search the scene ahead. In next to no time, Duan Tian noticed that he'd arrived at the bottom of the soul cleanse pool. There's actually nothing. At the bottom of the soul cleanse pool, an open expanse appeared before him, but there was only dense aquatic plants lurking all around. However, the density of the spirit energy here seems to be higher than outside. Duan Tian thought in his heart, and his spiritual force extended out once again. Ordinarily speaking, if the spirit energy within this soul cleanse pool is really from some type of spirit fruit, then the spirit energy at the location of that spirit fruit ought to be even denser than here. Now, Duan Tian was searching for the place in the depths of the soul cleanse pool that possessed an even denser spirit energy. A quarter of an hour passed. Half an hour passed. 1 hour passed. Duan Tian was extremely patient, walking slowly at the bottom of the soul cleanse pool, and he searched the level of density of the spirit energy in the surroundings as he walked. Needless to say, this soul cleanse pool was really extremely large. Duan Tian moved about as he searched, and he spent 2 hours before walking through half the soul cleanse pool. The density of the spirit energy here seems so be weaker than the beginning. Duan Tian was shocked first, then came to an understanding. Right, beside me, there's another 29 people absorbing the spirit energy within the soul cleanse pool to temper the soul, and consumption is extremely normal. But where exactly is the source of the spirit energy within the soul cleanse pool? Duan Ling Tian continued to walk towards the other side of the soul cleanse pool's bottom, and his spiritual force extended out to carefully search, not missing any trace in the slightest. Time quietly passed by. Another half an hour passed. I found it. Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian's body shook and excitement appeared on his face as the spiritual force he extended out had finally noticed the source of the spirit energy within the soul cleanse pool. At a side of the bottom of the soul cleanse pool, behind a large patch of dense aquatic plants. Luckily, Duan Ling Tian felt slightly lucky. After all, he'd searched all the way here, and no matter if it was his body or spiritual force, they were more or less slightly exhausted. When he first saw this patch of aquatic plants, he instinctively wanted to make his spiritual force briefly scan past it. In the end, he still patiently stretched out his spiritual force to carefully search. There's actually an underwater passageway beneath these aquatic plants. Duan Ling Tian lifted the patch of aquatic plants and noticed that there was actually a passageway that a person could go through. And as he stood here, Duan Ling Tian could notice that the speed his spiritual force was being tempered seemed to have increased a great deal. The source of the spirit energy in the soul cleanse pool is right inside here. Without any hesitation, Duan Ling Tian entered the passageway and dove in. At the beginning, the passageway went downwards, but after a period of time, it changed to head upwards. Duan Ling Tian continued to swim upwards. Finally, Duan Ling Tian swam out of the passageway. I've finally reached the end. When Duan Ling Tian swam out of the passageway, he noticed that he'd appeared in a shallow shoal, and what he saw was a spacious abode. This was a completely sealed abode, and only the underwater passageway lead to and from this place. The furnishing within the abode were extremely simple, only a stone table, stone stool, and stone bed. Duan Ling Tian arrived before the stone table and blew a mouthful of air, and dust suffused the air. Looks like it has already been a long time since someone came here. When he recalled the objective he came here with, Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force extended out. In the end, he sensed a strand of dense spirit energy behind the stone bed. What exactly is it? Under the urging of his curiosity, Duan Ling Tian walked forward to take a look. After passing the stone bed, Duan Ling Tian saw a gap in the ground, and within the gap was a dark green plant growing tenaciously there. On the plant, a translucent and glittering dark green spirit fruit hung there. Duan Ling Tian's pupils constricted. His guess was really correct. The spirit energy within the soul cleanse pool was indeed similar to the encounter of the Rebirth Martial Emperor all those years ago. It was also emitted from a spirit fruit and fused into the water. Presently, when Duan Ling Tian approached the spirit fruit, he noticed his soul shook. In the next moment, Duan Ling Tian felt his mind go blank, and at this instant, it seemed as if something had split open within his soul. My spiritual force has changed. Right at this moment, Duan Ling Tian noticed to his delight that his spiritual force that had fallen into a bottleneck had actually broke through the shackles in one go, and smoothly broke through to the void prying stage. He'd finally broken through. It's all thanks to this. Duan Ling Tian's burning gaze converged onto the spirit fruit, and at the same time, he started swiftly searching the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor. He was unable to recognize what spirit fruit this was. Finally, within the lifetime worth of memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, Duan Ling Tian obtained an answer. Nether Soul Fruit. Duan Ling Tian's heartbeat abruptly quickened. The Nether Soul Fruit was similar to the Soul Transformation Fruit. It was a type of spirit fruit that could improve the soul and improve the level of spiritual force. In terms of medicinal strength, it far surpassed the Soul Transformation Fruit. I really never imagined that my luck is so good. Even though I didn't acquire the Soul Transformation Fruit, I acquired an even better Nether Soul Fruit. Duan Ling Tian's breathing became hurried. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian started to size up the Nether Soul Fruit seriously. In next to no time, he noticed a problem. This Nether Soul Fruit seems to have not ripened yet. Duan Ling Tian was stunned, and as he looked at the wisp of green on the surface of the Nether Soul Fruit, a slight bitter smile unconsciously appeared on the corners of his mouth. However, it ought to be soon. Just this little bit of greenness. This Nether Soul Fruit will completely ripen in 3 days at most. Duan Ling Tian's gaze abruptly lit up, and he was slightly excited in his heart. 3 days. I won't go out first, Duan Ling Tian said to himself. As far as he was concerned, 3 days would pass in the blink of an eye. Feng Wu Dao's group of 3 and the little gold mouse knew of Duan Ling Tian's strength, and knew that there surely wouldn't be any danger to him after entering the soul cleanse pool. As for the inscription formation, he could use his spiritual force to open it. With a raise of his hand, Duan Ling Tian swept off the dust on the stone bed. Then he sat cross-legged atop it and started cultivating. 9 dragons wore sovereign technique, wind WIRM form. Duan Ling Tian completely immersed his heart and soul in cultivation, and he quickly entered into a state of cultivating. Duan Ling Tian noticed that after his soul transformed, his cultivating speed seemed to have improved slightly compared to before. Looks like even natural talent that is at the limit still needs to rely on a formidable soul to tap into it, to a certain extent. Duan Ling Tian gradually calmed his heart down and continued cultivating. A day's time quickly passed. Within the spacious gorge, behind the ball of cloud and mist that had split open, figures flew out one by one, and they were all the young geniuses of the various cities that had entered the soul cleanse pool. In next to no time, the 29 people came out successively. Where's Big Brother Duan? Feng Tianwu's beautiful face beneath the veil went slightly pale, and her pretty eyes that were like autumn water contained slight worry mixed within. Don't worry, young Mississippi. With Brother Duan's ability, he will absolutely be fine. The gray-clothed old man that stood at the side shook his head and smiled, and his words were filled with confidence to Duan Ling Tian. City Governor Feng, then we'll be taking our leave. The 29 city governors brought along the young geniuses by their sides and successively bid their farewells to Feng Wu Dao. Feng Wu Dao nodded indifferently, his gaze never leaving the ball of cloud and mist that had split apart the entrance to the soul cleanse pool. He seemed to be waiting for something and entirely didn't look at the 29 city governors in the eye. The 29 city governors didn't dare be displeased, and they summoned their respectively flying demon beasts before flying off. For a time, only Feng Wu Dao's group of 3 and the little gold mouse remained within the spacious gorge. Why hasn't Brother Duan come out yet? The inscription formation atop the soul cleanse pool is about to close right now. The old man looked at the cloud and mist that started to converge together, and he frowned. Squeak, squeak. Right at this moment, the little gold mouse that had stayed on Feng Tianwu's hand all the time cried out. Then she transformed into a gold light that shot into the wind and clouds that hadn't fully closed, entering the soul cleanse pool. Little gold. Feng Tianwu's face went pale, and before Feng Wu Dao and the old man could even react, her figure had flashed out, seeming to transform into a ball of flame that fused into the clouds and mist. Wu, young miss. Feng Wu Dao and the old man went pale, and they didn't dare hesitate as they both flashed out to follow her. Meanwhile, the clouds and mist converged together, and the entrance to the soul cleanse pool had completely closed, and it would only open again 3 years from now. Where's Little Gold? Little Gold, Little Gold. Feng Tianwu wasn't unfamiliar with the soul cleanse pool as she'd come here 3 years ago. However, now when she entered the bank of the lake outside the soul cleanse pool, her beautiful face concealed beneath the veil was filled with a worried expression. Little Gold, Little Gold. Feng Tianwu noticed that after the little gold mouse entered, she actually went missing. Feng Tianwu's gaze descended onto the soul cleanse pool. Could it be that Little Gold has entered the soul cleanse pool? I promised Big Brother Duan that I would take good care of Little Gold. Suddenly, seeming to have recalled something, Feng Tianwu's beautiful eyes squinted as she leaped into the soul cleanse pool. Meanwhile, Feng Wu Dao and the old man had entered as well. They just happened to see this scene, and they looked at each other and smiled bitterly. However, they weren't worried as the soul cleanse pool was just big and there wouldn't be any danger. Especially when the old man's formidable spiritual force extended out, he was easily capable of sensing Feng Tianwu's location and confirming Feng Tianwu's safety. Feng Wu Dao sized up the dusky clouds and mist in the surroundings of the soul cleanse pool, and he lightly frowned as he asked, Elder Kong, do you have a way to go out? No, I don't have the ability to break through this inscription formation. Elder Kong had a serious expression An inscription formation was an existence that he hadn't encountered yet. This inscription formation can't be said to be difficult or easy, but it's the outcome of a void transformation stage expert after all, and it's far from something I'm able to see through. Perhaps Brother Duan has a way. Is your spiritual force able to find Duan Ling Tian's location? Feng Wudao asked. No, my spiritual force can only touch the upper half of the soul cleanse pool. There's no trace of Brother Duan or the little gold mouse. The young miss, on the other hand, is about to leave the scope of my spiritual force. Let's go down and take a look. As soon as he finished speaking, the old man flew out and entered the soul cleanse pool. Within the abode, Duan Ling Tian quietly cultivated, and when he felt the time was about right, he opened his eyes. His face emitted a happy expression and raised his hand intending to pluck the nether soul fruit. However, when his gaze glanced over, it caused Duan Ling Tian's face to go gloomy. He saw that the plant was still there, yet the nether soul fruit atop it had gone missing. Where's the nether soul fruit? Who plucked the nether soul fruit? Duan Ling Tian's expression was extremely unsightly. His gaze swiftly and fiercely swept past as he searched within the abode. He could be sure that there was surely someone that seized the nether soul fruit before him. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian noticed the culprit. At the other side of the stone bed, a fluffy gold-colored little mouse lay there in deep sleep. It could be seen that on the corners of the little gold mouse's mouth was a wisp of dark green liquid held there, and traces of profound spirit energy was suffused on the dark green liquid. Little gold, you actually ate my nether soul fruit. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian's mood was complicated and was difficult to be expressed with words. Once he consumed the nether soul fruit, it could allow his soul to advance a great deal of levels, and even become directly below the soul of an ordinary void initiation stage martial artist. But now, all this had transformed into a dream, whereas the culprit was exactly the infant jade-eyed heavenly mouse. This little fellow wouldn't be pretending to sleep, right? Didn't I ask you to obediently stay by Tian Wu's side? Why did you come in? Duan Ling Tian slightly helplessly grabbed up the little gold mouse, yet noticed that the little gold mouse had indeed fell into an extremely deep state of slumber. Looks like she's digesting the nether soul fruit. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. If it was any other demon beast that are the nether soul fruit, Duan Ling Tian would surely kill it without hesitation. But the demon beast that ate the nether soul fruit was little gold instead, and Duan Ling Tian could only endure it. Never mind, I'll just take it as helping you, little fellow. In next to no time, felt at ease and didn't think about it any longer. Presumably, little gold had obtained quite a great deal of benefit from consuming the nether soul fruit. When little gold was strong, her assistance to him would be greater. Good moved in a cycle. It has been 3 days, I ought to go out. Duan Ling Tian brought along the little gold mouse as he dived down the underwater passageway and left the abode. This little gold was actually able to find the underwater passageway. She really has ability, as expected of the descendant of a jade-eyed heavenly mouse. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but sigh emotionally in his heart as he swam within the underwater passageway. According to the memories of Rebirth Martial Emperor, besides their brute force, the jade-eyed heavenly mouse was also skilled in soul attacks and knew some mysterious soul skills. Human martial artists could only touch the essence of the soul when the martial artist had become a martial emperor and come into contact with the mysterious soul attacks. On Cloud Continent, soul attacks were ordinarily called spiritual force attacks. Many demon beasts with extraordinary natural talent were able to utilize their spiritual force to attack before becoming a demon emperor, and this included the jade-eyed heavenly mouse. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. Through the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, he was able to deeply feel how terrifying spiritual force attacks were. A thought was sufficient to injure or even shatter another's soul. What an overbearing ability that was. I wonder if Little Gold is able to awaken the inheritance related to the mysterious soul skills after her soul strengthens from the consumption of the nether soul fruit. Through the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, Duan Ling Tian found out that once the descendant of a jade-eyed heavenly mouse matured to a certain extent, it would receive the corresponding inheritance of the jade-eyed heavenly mouse family. Amongst it included the mysterious soul skill. A soul skill was a type of ability to launch an attack with the spiritual force, and it's impossible to guard against it. The soul skill of a demon beast is ordinarily executed through an inherited soul brand. And even if a human martial artist knew the method of utilizing the inherited soul skill of a demon beast, the human would be unable to execute it. After Duan Ling Tian found out about all this from the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, he couldn't help but sigh. After all, a thought had emerged earlier that once the little gold mouse's memories related to the inherited soul skill was awoken, he would ask the little gold mouse to pass down the soul skill to him. In that way, he would be able to execute soul skills by relying on his spiritual force as well. But unfortunately, his imagination was fine, yet reality was brutal. As his thoughts spun, Duan Ling Tian left the underwater passageway and returned to the soul cleanse pool. Right when he started swimming upwards and arrived at the upper portion of the soul cleanse pool, he sensed an incomparably strong spiritual force sweep over. Elder Kong. Duan Ling Tian guessed who the owner of the strong spiritual force was at the first possible moment. When Duan Ling Tian leaped out of the soul cleanse pool, Feng Wu Dao, Feng Tian Wu, and Elder Kong were already waiting there. Big Brother Duan. At this moment, Feng Tian Wu had already removed the veil on her face and revealed her peerless appearance. But at this moment, she seemed to be slightly lost. I'm sorry, I didn't take good care of Little Gold. I don't know where Little Gold has gone. Duan Ling Tian was curious earlier as to why Feng Tian Wu would reveal such an expression, and not when he heard what she said. He couldn't help but shake his head and smile. The little fellow is here. Duan Ling Tian stretched his hand out to grab the little gold mouse. Earlier, while he swam his way up, he'd fastened the little gold mouse that had fallen into a deep slumber on the belt behind him. Little Gold. Feng Tian Wu saw the little gold mouse, and her peerlessly beautiful appearance recovered its spirits. But when she saw the little gold mouse wasn't moving at all, she had a worried expression. Big Brother Duan. What's wrong with Little Gold? She's fine. She'd only sleeping. Duan Ling Tian slightly gnashed his teeth with hatred when he recalled the reason the little gold mouse had fallen asleep. City Governor, Elder Kong. Why are the two of you here? The inscription formation outside the soul cleanse pool closing up was within Duan Ling Tian's expectations. The appearance of the little gold mouse had already exceeded his expectations, and Feng Wu Dao's group of 3 being within the soul cleanse pool exceeded his expectations even more. It's because Wu saw the little gold mouse run in and followed it in. I and Elder Kong were worried for her, so we follow her in as well. You don't know anxious this little girl was when she noticed that she'd lost any trace of this little gold mouse. As Feng Wu Dao spoke, he glanced deeply at Duan Ling Tian. Tian Wu. Duan Ling Tian looked at Feng Tian Wu and his heart lightly trembled, and his face revealed a slight smile. I'm sorry for making you worry. Big Brother Duan. It's all right as long as you and Little Gold are fine. Feng Tian Wu shook her head, and she revealed a smile that could overturn every living being. Right, Big Brother Duan. Where did you and Little Gold go? I, my father, and Grandpa Kong searched the entire soul cleanse pool, but didn't notice a trace of either of you. Feng Wu Dao and Elder Kong looked at Duan Ling Tian with tacit understanding as well. Duan Ling Tian slowly said, there's a concealed underwater passageway beneath the soul cleanse pool, and it leads to a fully sealed abode. I spent these 2 days within that abode. There seems to have been someone who once stayed within that abode, but it was covered in dust. According to my estimations, the owner of that abode is very likely the inscription master that placed the inscription formation over the soul cleanse pool. As soon as Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, both Feng Wu Dao and Elder Kong were moved. Brother Duan, you said there's an underwater passageway beneath the soul cleanse pool that leads to the abode of the inscription master that left behind this inscription formation? Elder Kong looked at Duan Ling Tian with an excited expression. As an inscription master, he was naturally able to discern the profundity of the inscription formation that enveloped the soul cleanse pool. 9 inscriptions interconnected and complementing each other was something only an inscription master with a soul at the void transformation stage was able to set up. Whereas now, the abode of that inscription master was right before his eyes. It's only my guess, and it might not actually be him. Duan Ling Tian naturally was able to guess the reason Elder Kong was excited. You spent these 2 days within the abode and ought to have discovered something, right? Feng Wudao looked at Duan Ling Tian with a burning gaze. It can be considered like that. Duan Ling Tian smiled bitterly, and it attracted the attention of Feng Wudao and Elder Kong. Duan Ling Tian glanced helplessly at the little gold mouse in his hand when faced with the stares of the three people, and said slowly, 3 days ago, after I entered the Soul Cleanse pool, I went to search for the source of the spirit energy in the Soul Cleanse pool. In the end, I discovered the underwater passageway. Later on, I entered into the abode and discovered a nether soul fruit within it. Nether soul fruit. Feng Tian Wu had no reaction to what Duan Ling Tian said, but Feng Wudao and Elder Kong's faces were instantly filled with shock. Especially Elder Kong. An inscription master at his level possessed a formidable soul, and even a soul transformation fruit had an extremely limited assistance to improving his soul. However, the nether soul fruit was a valuable spirit fruit that transcended the soul transformation fruit. Even if he consumed it, it would at least be able to improve his soul by 2 to 3 levels. You consumed the nether soul fruit. Elder Kong stared blankly at Duan Ling Tian. A bright light flashed within his muddy eyes, and his eyes were filled with envy. Subsequently, Feng Tian Wu found out about the preciousness of the nether soul fruit from Feng Wudao, and she looked at Duan Ling Tian as she said with a light smile, "Congratulations, big brother Duan. I didn't consume the nether soul fruit." Duan Ling Tian shook his head, and at the same time, he couldn't help but glare at the little gold mouse that was in deep sleep in his hand. Feng Wudao's group of 3 looked at Duan Ling Tian with a puzzled expression. 3 days ago, I discovered the nether soul fruit. Duan Ling Tian sighed and spoke of the sequence of events. All this wasn't a secret. After they finished listening to Duan Ling Tian, the gazes of Feng Wudao's group of 3 simultaneously descended onto the little gold mouse in Duan Ling Tian's hand, and their gaze were filled with astonishment. A reckless waste of heaven's gifts. A reckless waste of heaven's gifts. Feng Wudao couldn't help but shake his head and sigh with emotion. If I knew earlier that this little fellow would steal your fortuitous encounters, I ought to have kept an eye on her since the beginning and not let her charge in. Big brother Duan, I'm sorry. It's I who didn't look after little gold properly and caused her to eat the spirit fruit you wanted to consume. Feng Tian Wu had an apologetic expression, and she seemed delicate and touching with tears that were about to flow down. There's no harm. Duan Ling Tian smiled indifferently, then rubbed the little gold mouse in his hand. Little gold consuming the nether soul fruit can be considered to be a fortune of hers. Brother Duan is really magnanimous. It's truly admirable. Elder Kong couldn't but say. Then his gaze lit up. Brother Duan. Elder Kong, if you're interested in the abode that seems to be left behind by the inscription master, then I'll take you over to have a look. Before Elder Kong could finish, Duan Ling Tian interrupted him, then placed the little gold mouse at the side before his body flashed, once again entering the Soul Cleanse pool. This time, not only Elder Kong followed, even Feng Wudao and Feng Tian Wu followed as well. This underwater passageway is actually concealed beneath the aquatic plants. No wonder I didn't notice it at all. When I searched with my spiritual force earlier, I intentionally avoided these aquatic plants, but I never imagined that the thing I didn't care about the most actually concealed something. When he saw Duan Ling Tian pull open the aquatic plants and enter the underwater passageway, Elder Kong sent a voice transmission to Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian's brows raised. It was because he was careful that day. Otherwise, he would have missed this underwater passageway like Elder Kong. Finally, under Duan Ling Tian's lead, Elder Kong, Feng Wudao, and Feng Tian Wu arrived within the abode. At the beginning, Duan Ling Tian felt that Elder Kong was doing something useless. But unexpectedly, Brother Duan, come and look quickly. Elder Kong's exclamation in surprise entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears, and at the same time, it alerted both Feng Wudao and Feng Tian Wu. The 3 of them walked over. They saw the along with Elder Kong raising his hand to pat the walls on the side of the abode, and as the dust on the walls fell down, dense words appeared before their eyes. This is experience in the art of inscriptions. Duan Ling Tian took a rough look and discerned what was recorded in the words on the wall, and it was the lifetime worth of experience left behind by an inscription master. Looks like it's exactly as Brother Duan guessed. This abode was left behind by the great inscription master that set up the inscription formation over the soul cleanse pool. This great inscription master was a void transformation stage expert. Elder Kong looked at the words on the wall, and he seemed as if he'd lost his soul as he muttered. The words on the wall were all the lifetime worth of experience that the void transformation stage inscription master had left behind. And to an inscription master, it was a supreme treasure. But to Duan Ling Tian, it wasn't worth mentioning. The inscription experiences left behind by that inscription master is completely unable to compare with the inscription experiences left behind by the Rebirth Martial Emperor. These inscription experiences might be useful to Elder Kong, but they're of no use to me. Duan Ling Tian only took a few glances at the inscription experiences on the wall before turning around from lack of interest, and he started examining the surroundings. Earlier, he really didn't notice those words on the wall. There are more here. Feng Tianwu's voice sounded out, and only now did Duan Ling Tian notice that the wall on the other side was similarly fully inscribed with dense words. What's this? Originally, Duan Ling Tian similarly didn't have the slightest interest towards the words on the wall on the other side, but Feng Tianwu's low exclaim still attracted his attention. Duan Ling Tian walked over. Big brother Duan, look at this. Is this an inscription? Feng Tianwu pointed at a part of the wall as she said to Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian glanced over. On the wall, besides the portion of dense words related to the experiences in the Tao of inscriptions, there was a strange brand behind a layer of light dust. This brand didn't seem as if it was inscribed onto the wall. A wisp of gold light seemed to be hidden behind the dust. It's slightly like an inscription's, but seems not to be. Under his curiosity, Duan Ling Tian stretched out his hand, intending to wipe off the dust on the brand. Right when Duan Ling Tian stretched out his hand to wipe the dust on the stranger brand, when his palm touched the strange brand. Whoosh! Something flashed before Duan Ling Tian's eyes. It was the strange brand that had completely manifested itself, and is suddenly exploded out with gold lights, like it instantly transformed into a scorching sun that was incomparably dazzling. Subsequently, this small scorching sun gradually dimmed out. Instantly, Duan Ling Tian felt an extremely strange energy sweep out from the wall and pour into his palm with a speed so swift that it caused him to be terrified. At the same time that Duan Ling Tian's expression went grim, that strand of extremely strange energy directly swept towards his soul. *T. Duan Ling Tian experienced a wave of panic in his heart. The soul was the foundation of a person. If the soul was destroyed, then it would also mean the end of the person's life, and only a lifeless shell would remain. Without any hesitation, spiritual force swept out within Duan Ling Tian's soul, attempting to stop the extremely strange energy. However, this energy instead completely disregarded Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force, charging violently all the way as it swept towards Duan Ling Tian's soul, seeming as if it wouldn't stop until it destroyed Duan Ling Tian's soul. Bang! At the instant the extremely strange energy collided onto his soul, despair arose in Duan Ling Tian's heart. Am I going to die? In the next moment, his soul shook, causing Duan Ling Tian to feel a wave of dizziness. I didn't die. When Duan Ling Tian recovered his senses, he noticed that his consciousness was still intact, and his soul wasn't destroyed. Big brother Duan, what happened earlier? Why is that inscription gone? A wave of a pleasing and graceful voice entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears, pulling Duan Ling Tian back from his agitated state of mind. Duan Ling Tian looked once again at the wall before him, and he noticed that the gold-colored strange brand had vanished, as if it had never appeared in the first place. When he recalled the incident from before, Duan Ling Tian asked curiously, Tianwu, you didn't see anything earlier? No. Feng Tianwu shook her head. I saw big brother Duan wiping the dust off the gold-colored inscription, then the inscription vanished. Could it be that the inscriptions was painted on the wall, and big brother Duan wiped it off with the dust? Perhaps. At the same time that he nodded, Duan Ling Tian's mind surged. He didn't have the slightest clue what exactly that gold-colored strange brand was, and it was because of this that he realized that the brand wasn't simple. Tianwu said she didn't see anything. In other words, the bright light that was like a scorching sun emitted by the strange brand earlier, only I was able to see that scene. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. Then he looked at Feng Wu Dao and Elder Kong who were at the other side. Feng Wu Dao and Elder Kong were obviously not alarmed by it. What exactly is that brand? Duan Ling Tian caught his breath, then fused his spiritual force into his soul, and he started to search. In the end, he noticed that there seemed to be something within his soul. Although the current strength of his spiritual force was insufficient to replace his eyes, and he was unable to see what was in his soul, but his spiritual force still told him that his soul had become different from before. This feeling, Duan Ling Tian closed his eyes and used his spiritual force to sense the changes in his soul to the best of his spiritual force's ability. In the end, Duan Ling Tian obtained an answer. According to the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, a similar thing would only appear in the souls of those demon beasts that possessed extraordinary natural talent. This thing seemed to be slightly similar to the soul brand in the souls of those demon beasts. Soul brand. Some demon beasts with extraordinary natural talent were able to awaken their own soul brand before becoming a demon emperor and awaken the inherited memories related to soul skill. These demons beasts relied on the soul brand to be able to utilize soul attack of, in other words, spiritual force attacks in advance. Whereas as a jade-eyed heavenly mouse, Little Gold was one of these demon beasts with extraordinary natural talent. But, according to the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, it was impossible for soul brands to appear in humans. Human martial artists were only able to achieve elementary mastery of the soul and control their spiritual force to battle an enemy once their cultivations broke through to the Martial Emperor stage. Moreover, it wasn't every human martial artist that was able to easily control spiritual force in combat, and more than 80% of human martial artists that were able to easily control spiritual force in combat were inscription masters. The other portion of people able to easily control their spiritual force in combat were existences that innately possessed souls that were stronger than ordinary human martial artists. Ordinary human martial emperors had to put in hard work that was much more than the two types of people before to control their spiritual force in combat. After all, their starting point was far inferior to the other two types of people. Moreover, even if they devoted themselves to study spiritual force attacks, it would be difficult for these type of human martial emperor to have any great accomplishments. The memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor flashed within Duan Ling Tian's mind. But why would a thing similar to a soul brand appear within my soul? Duan Ling Tian was unable to wrap his head around it. Could it be that it's related to the strange brand that appeared on the wall earlier? Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but recall this. At the same time, for the sake of getting to the bottom of it, Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force coiled around the additional existence in his soul that seemed to be his soul brand. Whem! His spiritual force swept out and pierced into it. In practically an instant, Duan Ling Tian felt his soul tremble, then an incomparably hollow voice sounded out within his mind. Fortunate one of the younger generation, when you hear these words of mine, you ought to have already acquired the soul brand I left behind. This unfamiliar voice caused Duan Ling Tian to be as if struck by lightning. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian vaguely guessed who the owner of the voice was. I'm an inscription master from the foreign lands, yet I sought different things than ordinary inscription masters. I devoted all the energy in my life to the study of soul brands. Those demon beasts didn't have to break through to become a demon emperor before being able to utilize spiritual force in combat through their soul brands, and it frequently caused our human martial artists to be unable to guard against it. My studies were because I wanted to allow human martial artists to be able to possess soul brands that belong to themselves. But unfortunately, the facts prove that I was too naive. I walked through more than half of Cloud Continent in my life, and when I arrived here, I was already old. So what if I was at the void transformation stage? After 100 years, I still have to transform into a pill for earth in the end, and return to the heaven and the earth. Old people are always more long-winded. I hope you don't mind. In this lifetime of mine, although I didn't successfully research a soul brand to allow human martial artists to execute spiritual force attacks before breaking through to the Martial Emperor, I couldn't be considered to have had no results. I used the seed of the nether soul fruit as the catalyst, then relied on my attainments in the Tao of inscriptions in this lifetime, and I was finally able to leave behind a special soul brand. Or in other words, the soul brand you've acquired now. These words of mine were left behind within the soul brand using a void transmission inscription. When I left behind this soul brand, my lifespan was at its end, and I decided to leave, to go find a calm and peaceful place to live the remainder of my life. Although this soul brand isn't able to allow you to execute spiritual force attacks that are able to destroy another's soul, according to my estimations, it ought to be able to help you utilize some special spiritual force abilities. As for how exactly, you'll have to rely on yourself to find out. Besides that, since you're able to fuse with the soul brand I left behind, I presume there's something special about your spiritual force, and you're almost surely an inscription master. I've left behind my lifetime worth of experience in the Tao of inscriptions on the walls of this abode, and I hope it's able to help you. The voice completely went out at this point, passing into silence. Duan Ling Tian returned to his sense, and his pupils constricted as shock emerged within his heart. This inscription master is truly amazing. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath. He who'd fused with the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor deeply knew what the deeds of this inscription master meant. Even during the time of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, although he was extremely interested towards the soul brand of those demon beasts with extraordinary natural talent, he'd completely given up after conducting research for a few years. Because the Rebirth Martial Emperor felt that continuing the research was only doing something of no use. Moreover, the Rebirth Martial Emperor of that time completely didn't need a soul brand, so he didn't care about it much. As an expert at the Martial Emperor stage and a formidable inscription master, so long as he condensed his spiritual force and swept it out, then there wasn't a single Martial Emperor in Cloud Continent that was able to block his spiritual force attack without being injured. Compared to the Rebirth Martial Emperor, this inscription master was much more persistent. He spent his entire lifetime, and in the end, he'd researched a type of soul brand after all. The shock in Duan Ling Tian's heart gradually calmed down. After it calmed down, Duan Ling Tian's heart jerked. I nearly forgot something. According to the words left behind by that inscription master, he himself seems to not know what functions that soul brand that has fused into my soul now had, right? Then wouldn't I have become his lab rat? Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian realized that unknowingly, he seemed to have become the test subject of that inscription master. I hope that there's no problem with the soul brand left behind by that inscription master. Otherwise, I would really be played to death by him. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but laugh bitterly in his heart. According to the inscription master, the soul brand within my soul is unable to directly utilize my spiritual force to battle an enemy. Looks like I have to research it for some time to find out exactly what use this soul brand has. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. At the same time, he recalled another thing the inscription master mentioned earlier. According to that inscription master, the soul brand that has fused into my soul seems to be created from inscriptions combined with the seed of a nether soul fruit as the catalyst. A seed of a nether soul fruit. He really recklessly wasted God's gifts. Looks like the nether soul fruit that grew within this abode was very likely grown from the seed that was left here that time. Duan Ling Tian was suddenly enlightened about many things now, and he completely understood them. But unfortunately, the plant grown from a nether soul fruit seed is only able to develop a single nether soul fruit in its lifetime. Otherwise, I could consider moving this nether soul fruit plant to another place. Duan Ling Tian sighed to himself. The changes in Duan Ling Tian's expression were completely noticed by Feng Tianwu. But she entirely didn't know exactly what had happened, and she could only silently stand there. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian completely returned to his senses. Only now did he notice that Elder Kong was still seriously inspecting the lifetime worth of experience in the Tao of inscriptions left behind by that inscription master. These experiences and inscriptions are completely useless to me. However, it could be considered to have helped Elder Kong. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled. After he realized that Elder Kong would still require a period of time before being able to completely look through the experiences in the art of inscription on the walls, Duan Ling Tian directly sat cross-legged on the stone bed and completely immersed himself into cultivation after letting Feng Tian Wu know he would be cultivating. 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique, Wind WIRM form. The 2-year agreement with that zither young master was impending, and Duan Ling Tian didn't dare slack in the slightest. Duan Ling Tian's actions were noticed by Feng Wu Dao, and he couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. A genius didn't completely rely on natural talent and fortune, and relied even more on the genius's own hard work. For example, if a peerless genius didn't have the mind to cultivate and only cared about enjoying himself, then the genius was bound to be unable to attain great achievements, and even greater natural talent was of no use. In next to no time, Feng Wu Dao and Feng Tian Wu sat on the stone bed and closed their eyes to cultivate. The stone bed was extremely large, and it didn't seem crowded in the slightest with 3 people sitting cross-legged on it. Duan Ling Tian completely forgot the time when he was completely immersed in his cultivation. He only knew to ceaselessly improve the origin energy in his body and ceaselessly improve his cultivation. He only heaved a sigh of relief and opened his eyes when his cultivation arrived at the breakthrough point between the 5th level of the nascent soul stage and the 6th level of the nascent soul stage. City Governor, Elder Kong, Tian Wu. Only now did Duan Ling Tian notice that the 3 of them were sitting at the stone table in the abode and were chatting in low voices. All of them revealed smiles on their faces when they noticed Duan Ling Tian had awoken. Especially Feng Tian Wu, her pair of eyes that were like autumn water emitted traces of happiness that was difficult to notice. Big brother Duan, you've awoken. Feng Tian Wu stood up and lightly smiled as she looked at Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian nodded, and he couldn't help but ask when he noticed the wave of hunger that came from his stomach. How long did I cultivate this time? 1.5 months, said Feng Tian Wu. 1.5 months. Duan Ling Tian's brows raised. In other words, there was only another 4.5 months of time remaining before the 2-year agreement with Zither Young Master. Elder Kong, you finished looking through it? Duan Ling Tian glanced at the walls surrounding the abode, then looked at the gray, clothed old man. Yes. The old man nodded with a smile, and his face was glowing. Obviously, his gains were quite substantial. Brother Duan, are you not going to take a look? These experiences in the art of inscriptions are of no help to me. Duan Ling Tian shook his head. The old man came to a sudden understanding. If he had no knowledge of Duan Ling Tian's attainments in the Tao of inscriptions, he might have felt that the words Duan Ling Tian spoke were too arrogant. Looks like the attainments in the Tao of inscription of that master of Brother Duan's, that is from the foreign lands, surpasses the owner of this abode, that great inscription master that had broken through to the void transformation stage. Now, only shock remained in his heart. Since it's like this, then let's leave, Feng Wu Dao said slowly. Duan Ling Tian, Elder Kong, and Feng Tian Wu had no objections. In next to no time, their group of 4 had left the soul cleanse pool. Little Gold hasn't awoken yet. Feng Tian Wu carried up the little gold mouse in her arms, and she was slightly surprised when she noticed the little gold mouse was still sound asleep. After all, 1.5 months had passed by now. She'll probably still need to sleep for a period of time. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled. He originally wanted to go break open the inscription formation, but when he noticed Elder Kong seemed to have the intention to do it, he withdrew his spiritual force that had stretched out and allowed Elder Kong to do it. But, after a long time, Elder Kong's sweat flowed down like the rain, yet he was still unable to break open the inscription formation. Elder Kong, are you still unable? Feng Wu Dao was slightly astonished. Didn't Elder Kong master all the lifetime worth of experiences in the Tao of inscriptions that was left behind by that inscription master? Why is he unable to even break open the inscription formation of that person? Elder Kong was slightly embarrassed when he heard this. I might have to practice for a while first. Allow me. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled. His spiritual force swept out and relying on the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, he was able to easily see through the core of this inscription formation. Although Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force was far inferior to Elder Kong, he'd found the core of the inscription formation and was able to easily break open the inscription formation. Whoosh! The dusky clouds and mist before him roiled, and the inscription formation opened once again. Duan Ling Tian's group of 4 flew out, and along with Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force extending out and entering the core once again, the inscription formation was closed up once more. Not only that, he even changed the configuration of the inscription formation that made it open once every 3 years. In the future, this soul cleanse pool won't be open to the public anymore, Duan Ling Tian said to Feng Wu Dao and the others. The 3 of them nodded as they didn't feel that Duan Ling Tian's actions were going too far. After all, the nether soul fruit had been eaten by the little gold mouse, and the soul cleanse pool wouldn't give birth to any more spirit energy in the future. Even if the opening configuration of the inscription formation wasn't changed by Duan Ling Tian, it was impossible for anyone to obtain any benefit from the soul cleanse pool in the future. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian's group of 4 once again ascended the flying demon beast and returned to Phoenix Nest City. Phoenix Nest City was peaceful, and it was no different from when they left. This time, after returning to the city governor's estate for 3 days, Duan Ling Tian intended to bid his farewells and leave. Big brother Duan, you're leaving so soon? Feng Tian Wu's beautiful face was filled with reluctance. All good things must come to an end. Moreover, I have some things to do. I'll surely come see you in the future. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled as he spoke. Feng Tian Wu lightly nodded as she was able to perceive that Duan Ling Tian was resolute on leaving. Ling Tian, remember the words you've spoken. Feng Wu Dao looked at Duan Ling Tian and said via voice transmission. You can be at ease, city governor. I, Duan Ling Tian, always keep my promises, and I would absolutely not go back against my word. So long as I've really awoken a water spirit body or ice spirit body one day in the future, then I'll marry Tian Wu and save her life. Duan Ling Tian nodded to Feng Wu Dao as he spoke via voice transmission. At that time, I'll come to Phoenix Nest City again. There's no need. Feng Wu Dao's voice transmission entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears, and it caused him to be unable to help himself from being stunned. There's no need? City governor, you. What I mean is, you don't have to come to Phoenix Nest City in the future. After a period of time, we'll return to where we came from. In the future, if you want to find us, then go to the capital of the Dark Han dynasty. You only have to inquire about the Feng clan when you arrive at the capital. Feng Wu Dao's voice transmission sounded out once again and allowed Duan Ling Tian to come to a sudden understanding. Feng clan. Presumably, it was the clan that Feng Wu Dao and the others were from. He'd committed it to memory. Big brother Duan, you haven't told us where you're from. Feng Tian Wu looked at Duan Ling Tian as she asked. What? You're afraid I'll go missing? Duan Ling Tian joked, causing the heavy atmosphere in the scene to ease up slightly. I'm from the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom that's south of Darkstone Empire. Presently, I've joined the leaders amongst the 5 great sects of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, the 7-Star Sword sect. If nothing unexpected happens, then I ought to be in the 7-Star Sword sect for the next few years. 7-Star Sword sect. Feng Tian Wu nodded and silently committed it to memory. All right, I ought to leave. Elder Kong, farewell. Duan Ling Tian bid his farewells to Elder Kong before leaving the city governor's estate. After Duan Ling Tian left. All right, Wu, he's already left. Feng Wu Dao glanced at his daughter who still had her head raised as she looked into the distance, and he shook his head. He knew clearly in his heart that the heart of his daughter had already gone off with that kid, Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian, you're really something. Since a young age, this daughter of mine possessed peerless natural talent and was extremely prideful, but you've actually captured her heart so quickly. Even though this made him feel displeased, he had to admit it. Feng Tian Wu withdrew her gaze, and her beautiful face was filled with a sense of loss. The atmosphere became depressed once again. Outside Phoenix Nest City. Go! A tall horse that seemed as if it was tainted with blood flashed out, and a violet-clothed young man sat on it. It was exactly Duan Ling Tian who'd just left Phoenix Nest City. I forgot little gold is still in deep slumber. I can only temporarily hurry on the journey with a Fergana horse. Duan Ling Tian had a bitter smile on his face. He only thought of this after he left the city governor's estate. Although he could ask for a flying beast from Feng Wu Dao if he returned to the city governor's estate now, he dispelled this thought in the end. Since he wasn't in a hurry for time, he wouldn't go trouble another. He didn't want to owe Feng Wu Dao a favor. Duan Ling Tian spurred his horse to swift gallop forward, heading all the way south. Pressing forward day and night and enduring the hardships of an arduous journey, he seemed as if he completely didn't have a destination. 4.5 months. I'll randomly go about during this period of time and temper myself. Duan Ling Tian decided in his heart. 7-star sword sect, Dubhe Peak. In a spacious palace that stood on the mountainside of Dubhe Peak like a monster that lay dormant there. Big Brother Lei. Big Brother Lei. An urgent voice sounded out within the palace. A green-clothed youth around the age of 17 or 18 pushed open the door and entered. Pooh. The blue-clothed young man who sat on the bed in cultivation was alarmed by this, and the sudden stimulation made his lifeblood to circulate in the opposite direction, causing him to forcefully spit out a mouthful of blood. The blue-clothed young man opened his eyes, and a cold light that was difficult to notice flashed within before quickly being restrained, and he forced out a trace of a smile as he looked at the green-clothed youth that had entered. Little brother Ko, is there something that you're urgently looking for me for? He knew clearly in his heart that although this green-clothed youth before him was his cousin brother, he was far from being able to compare with the youth's status. Even to the extent that it was all thanks to this cousin brother that he was able to cultivate here. After all, the palace he was in now was the cultivation location of one of the 2 great guardian elders of the 7-star sword sect, Elder Ming. Elder Ming was the great-grandfather of his cousin brother's family. Big Brother Lei, look at this. The green-clothed youth looked at the blue-clothed young man and casually withdrew a small booklet and flipped it to the middle before passing it over. These words. The blue-clothed young man looked over. At the middle page of the small booklet were extremely eye-piercing words. One must first castrate oneself if there is desire to cultivate the second half. Without castration, it's difficult to succeed in the divine cultivation method. Once castrated, rebirth shall be achieved.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.